Dubai glistened under the rising sun, its glass towers piercing the golden sky like needles of ambition. The air was thick with desert heat and promises of power. In a penthouse overlooking the Palm Jumeirah, Maya Karim stood barefoot on marble floors, sipping the last of her morning espresso. Her 1-year-old daughter Noura cooed softly in her playpen nearby, babbling to her stuffed camel. It was supposed to be a quiet morning. Until an email shattered everything. The subject line simply read, "New beginnings." Maya tapped her tablet. The screen lit up with a photo attachment. Her breath caught in her throat. There he was. Zayn Malik, her husband of 6 years. Arm around a younger woman. Lena Voss. Blonde. Barely out of college. They were smiling in front of Maya's penthouse on the Palm. Her home. Her sanctuary. The email was short. "I've moved in with Lena. The penthouse is mine now. Don't fight this, Maya. The deed is in my name. Expect the divorce papers soon." For a few seconds, silence pressed against the glass windows like a storm ready to burst. Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she walked calmly to the kitchen, set down her tablet, and stared at the skyline. Her mind wasn't spinning, it was sharpening. Zayn thought she would break. He thought she would beg. He forgot who she was. She had built EcoCore Global from nothing but an idea. A tech startup now valued in the hundreds of millions. A green energy disruptor shaking up global oil markets. And Zayn? He was just the CFO of Voss Tech, a rival conglomerate that had long tried to outpace her. Maya turned to her daughter, still giggling and chewing on a rubber toy. No, this wasn't just about a cheating husband. Something deeper was at play. Maya opened her laptop. First, she sent a simple reply. "Check the paperwork. Carefully." Then she blocked his email. She opened her secure server and pulled up the ownership contracts of the penthouse. Legally, the property had been purchased under a marital trust, funded entirely through her company's profits. The deed might be in Zayn's name, but every trail of money told another story. And Maya had made sure of that. 6 months ago, Zayn had insisted on moving the title to his name, for tax purposes, he claimed. She had agreed, reluctantly, but not before her legal team prepared a detailed ownership protection agreement. Zayn had no idea those documents even existed. She turned to her intercom. "Noor, come in." Within moments, Noor Al-Fayed, her personal assistant and longtime friend, stepped into the penthouse. Eyes wide. She had already seen the photo. It was circulating through private business circles like wildfire. "He's with Lena Voss," Noor said softly. "You know who she is, right?" Maya nodded. "Richard Voss's niece. The CEO of Voss Tech. Zayn's boss." Maya's voice was cold. Controlled. "He's not just leaving me, Noor. He's executing a hostile takeover." Noor looked stunned. "You think this was planned?" "I don't think. I know." Noor handed her a flash drive. "I downloaded everything from his shared cloud before he changed the passwords. You'll want to see this." Maya plugged it into her laptop. Inside the folder were screenshots, emails, photos, PDFs. One message in particular made her heart stop. "Lena to Zayn. Once you're CFO, Uncle Richard will make sure the merger buries EcoCore. Maya won't know what hit her." There it was. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was corporate, strategic, weaponized. Maya felt heat rise in her chest, but not from emotion. It was focus, precision. This wasn't just about reclaiming her home, or defending her pride. It was about war, and she was already 5 moves ahead. From the security panel, she accessed the hidden cameras she'd secretly installed in the penthouse weeks ago. A gut feeling had told her something was off. What she saw now confirmed it. Zayn and Lena, drinking champagne in her living room, wearing her clothes, using her things. A second later, her phone buzzed. A notification. Noura's college fund account. Empty. Every dollar. Gone. Transferred to an untraceable offshore account. She clenched her fists. Silent fury rippling beneath her skin. This wasn't a breakup. It was a hijacking. Maya turned to Noor. "Call Layla D'Souza. Tell her to come here immediately." We're not just filing for divorce. She closed the laptop. We're taking them all down. As the sun blazed brighter outside, inside Maya's penthouse, the temperature dropped. The queen had just woken up. And her empire was not going down without a fight. By the time Leila D'Souza arrived, the city had shifted. Outside, Dubai's skyline gleamed with the calm perfection of control. But inside Maya's penthouse, a storm was brewing beneath polished marble floors and mirrored ceilings. Leila, sharp in a midnight blue suit, stepped into the room with urgency. I got your message. What's going on? Maya didn't waste time. She spun her laptop around, showing Leila the email from Zain, the photos, and the ownership documents. He's moved in with Lena Voss. And he's claiming the penthouse. Leila scanned the files, jaw tightening. Let me guess. He thinks because the deed is in his name, you won't fight him. Maya nodded. He drained Noura's education fund. Transferred over $90,000 to a shadow account. And this? She pulled up a video feed from the living room camera. Zain and Lena. Toasting. To the new CFO of Voss Tech, Zain declared in the video. Leila looked up, her expression unreadable. This isn't a divorce, Maya. This is a full-scale asset raid. Maya leaned in, voice low. They're planning to sabotage EcoCore. Voss Tech is merging with a Chinese conglomerate next month. Zain's appointment gives them leverage. If they get access to our algorithms, our proprietary tech, they'll bury you, Leila finished grimly. Maya's company, EcoCore Global, had developed a revolutionary AI that optimized solar farms across arid regions. Its real value wasn't just environmental, it threatened to displace billions in oil profits. Voss Tech had been circling her company like vultures for months. Now Maya understood why. She hadn't been paranoid. She'd been hunted. Leila flipped open her leather folio. I need full access to your server logs. Anything Zain might have touched. Any shared business files, investment activity, communications. I already had Noor pull it. It's encrypted and backed up, Maya replied. From across the room, Noor handed over a hard drive. Leila smiled. Smart woman. Then her smile vanished as her phone buzzed. A new alert. She held the screen up to Maya. Zain just filed an emergency petition. He's claiming partial ownership of EcoCore. Says your company grew using his contacts and guidance. Maya didn't flinch. He's bluffing. Does he have access to any investor decks, IP registrations, early-stage funding details? No. I kept all that off limits. He always thought my work was just a side project. Leila raised an eyebrow. And that ignorance might save us. Suddenly, Noor's tablet dinged. She opened a message, then her eyes widened. You need to see this. She turned the screen to Maya. It was Lena's private VossChat account, screenshots of conversations pulled from a data leak. In them, Lena bragged to friends about how she and Zain planned to crush Maya's cute eco-startup, and how dumb she was to focus on tech instead of her man. One post stood out. Uncle Richard said once we kill her market share, we'll launch our own green division with her stolen IP. Zain's in. He's already copied half her systems. Maya stared at the screen in silence. They want my technology, she said softly. Leila's voice was firm. Then we take the battle to them. But quietly. Let them think you're retreating. Maya's eyes narrowed. I'm going to let him believe he's won. Leila began drafting legal counterfilings. Noor started setting up air-gapped backups for all of EcoCore's infrastructure. Maya, meanwhile, opened her archived files. She had been managing Zain's investments for years. And in those spreadsheets, she had quietly documented everything. Suspicious transfers, off-the-book accounts, insider stock moves. She'd thought it might come in handy someday. She hadn't expected it would be war. At 3 a.m., Maya stood alone on the penthouse balcony. The city sparkled below, oblivious to the chessboard being set in motion above it. She looked at the skyline, not with despair, but with calculation. She wasn't going to fight to get Zain back. She was going to burn down the empire he thought he'd stolen. Tomorrow, the game would begin. And Maya Karim never lost. The next morning, Maya sat in the center of her war room, her once minimalist home office, now covered in maps, monitors, and digital archives. Her world had changed overnight. The rules were different now. She wasn't just a CEO. She was a strategist on a battlefield no one could see. Noor entered, holding a tablet. 3 offshore accounts confirmed. Zane's been funneling money into them for over 8 months. Maya didn't blink. And the trace? Shell companies. Mostly out of the Cayman Islands. But one of them connects back to a subsidiary under Vosteka's investment branch. There it was. The first concrete tie between Zane's theft and Vosteka's corporate architecture. Enough for suspicion. Not yet for proof. But proof was coming. Layla walked in next, a thin smile on her face. I have good news. The deed to the penthouse may be in Zane's name, but the purchase trail is clean. Your company paid for every cent. With the proper contracts, we can argue he has no equitable stake. Maya raised an eyebrow. Argue. Layla smirked. Prove. Still, something gnawed at Maya's instincts. This move by Zane, it wasn't impulsive. It was engineered. And sloppy men don't engineer betrayals like this alone. She tapped on the surveillance app and rewound the footage from the night before. Zane had returned to the penthouse. Alone. He walked the halls like a man who owned everything. Poured himself a drink from her bar. Sat in her chair. Then, he made a call. The audio was clear. It's done. She thinks I'm just another unfaithful husband. She's focused on the house and the money. She has no idea the board meeting is tomorrow. Maya paused the video. Board meeting, she whispered. Noor leaned in. Vosteka's quarterly meeting, where they'll announce Zane's promotion to CFO. Layla's eyes sharpened. If he's named CFO, he'll get access to the merger files, which could include confidential information about your patents if they've already started spying. Which they have, Maya said, cold and calm. She stood. We can't stop the meeting, but we can change what they walk into. She opened a folder on her laptop. Inside was a document she hadn't touched in years. Insurance. A collection of flagged emails, financial anomalies, and notes she'd compiled while managing Zane's investments. She'd always wondered why he insisted on keeping her involved. Now she knew. Control. Oversight. But it worked both ways. At the bottom of the file was a name. Richard Voss. Maya smiled. She turned to Noor. I want a background check on Richard. Every business deal. Every personal lawsuit. Every whisper. Especially the ones that never made it to print. Noor nodded and left the room. Layla watched Maya carefully. You're playing a dangerous game. Maya's gaze was steel. They made the board their battlefield. I'm just choosing the terrain. By midday, a new piece of the puzzle emerged. One of Maya's engineers, working remotely in Germany, reported a breach attempt on EcoCore's secondary AI testing server. The breach didn't succeed, but the IP was traced back to a hotel in Dubai, where Zane and Lena were now staying. The server had held designs for EcoCore's upcoming Sahara Grid project, a solar initiative that would power nearly 30% of North Africa. Now the stakes weren't just personal. They were global. Maya gathered her team in the penthouse conference room. Layla, Noor, 2 security experts, and her CTO dialed in via hologram. This is bigger than us, she said. They're not just stealing from me. They're trying to own the future of sustainable energy. She pointed to a digital map on the screen. We're going to set a trap. I'll make it look like we're launching an open source version of our next algorithm. We'll bait them. The code will be fake, but embedded with a tracker. And once they download it, her CTO asked, we'll have their digital fingerprints. Enough to link them directly to corporate espionage. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city of Dubai buzzed unaware, cranes building new dreams while Maya prepared to dismantle an empire. They had declared war in secret. But she would deliver the first strike in public. The night was still, but Maya's mind moved like a storm. Dubai's glittering skyline blinked in the darkness behind her, a city of secrets, ambition, and unspoken alliances. Inside her penthouse, the air was electric with anticipation. The trap was nearly set. In the center of her home office, a monitor displayed lines of shimmering code, complex, elegant, and entirely fake. A decoy algorithm designed to mimic the core of EcoCore's Sahara Grid AI. It looked real, smelled real, and functioned enough to fool even experienced engineers. But buried within the code was the heart of the plan. A digital tracker that would silently trace any unauthorized download back to its source, capturing device IDs, IP addresses, and server trails. Maya turned to her CTO on the hologram feed. "Is it live?" "Uploading to the restricted dev site now," he replied. "Only someone with internal knowledge would know how to find it." Maya nodded. "Perfect. Now we wait." Noor stood by the window, scrolling through a live security feed. Zain and Lena were still checked in at the Al Mahara Tower Hotel. Suite 47B. Expensive. Flashy. Careless. "He's logged into his private server 5 times in the last hour," Noor reported. "Same device as the breach attempt last night." Maya's jaw tightened. They're getting desperate. At exactly 1:43 a.m., the alert came in. Unauthorized access. Zain had taken the bait. The digital tripwire triggered silently, pulling in location metadata, server paths, and device fingerprints. Within seconds, Maya's cybersecurity team had a full digital footprint. She smiled. He used his personal laptop. Idiot. Layla, seated across the room with her laptop, was already writing. "We now have proof of corporate espionage. Unauthorized data access. Fraudulent asset transfer. This goes beyond divorce court." Maya leaned over her shoulder. "Draft the legal notices. But don't send them yet." "Why not?" Layla asked. "Because I want them to think they still have time." At dawn, Maya received an anonymous tip. An insider at Vosteka's legal department, someone who owed her a favor, had forwarded her a confidential draft of Zain's CFO announcement. It was scheduled for public release at the upcoming Vostek Global Summit. "In 2 days. They're making their move," Noor said. Maya stared at the headline, "Zain Malik to be appointed CFO of Vostek, leads Green Transition Initiative." Green Transition. That was her domain. Her vision. And they were hijacking it. Noor turned to her. "Do we go public now?" Maya shook her head. "Not yet. Let them celebrate first. Let them believe they've won. Then we'll detonate the truth." Later that afternoon, Maya paid a quiet visit to an old ally. Dr. Faris El-Najjar, former ethics officer at Vostek. Retired. Respected. And quietly disillusioned by the company's turn toward corruption. He welcomed her into his modest villa outside the city. "I knew something was coming," he said. "Richard Voss has been cleaning house. Silencing anyone who questions him." Maya slid a folder across the table. Inside, screenshots, surveillance stills, and a full data trail from the decoy breach. Ferris's eyes widened. "This is undeniable." "I need your help," Maya said. "Not just as a whistleblower. As a witness." He looked at her, uncertain. "Do you know what you're risking?" Maya's voice was steady. "They came for my company. My family. My future. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm demanding accountability." Ferris sat in silence for a moment. Then nodded. "Send me the files. I'll speak. But not behind closed doors. If we do this, we do it where the world can see." Maya smiled. "That's the plan." By nightfall, the press release from Vostek leaked early. Social media lit up. New CFO signals sustainability shift at Vostek. Zain's face was everywhere. Smiling. Victorious. Noor handed Maya a glass of pomegranate juice as the news scrolled across her screen. "Everyone thinks he's won." Maya sipped slowly. "Good. Let them." Because in 48 hours, she would step onto the stage at the Vostek Global Summit. And they had no idea what she was bringing with her. The day of the Vostek Global Summit arrived like a storm wrapped in silk. Downtown Dubai was electric. Delegates from across the world poured into the Al Noor Convention Center, where Vostek was hosting its most anticipated event of the year. Investors, diplomats, media, and innovators all gathered under the Crystal Dome, eager to hear how one of the most powerful tech empires would reshape the future of sustainable energy. What they didn't know was that the empire was built on a lie. Maya stood in front of her full-length mirror, dressed in an obsidian black suit. Clean lines. No jewelry. No branding. Just presence. Power didn't need decoration. Noor handed her the encrypted drive. All files are ready. Digital and printed backups are in place. And we've planted an anonymous leak to 3 journalists in the crowd. All they need is the go. Layla entered next, holding a manila envelope. Final evidence packet. For the board. With a formal legal filing attached. Everything time-stamped. Everything traceable. Maya took both items and nodded. Where's Zane? Noor glanced at her phone. He just arrived with Lena. Smiling. Cameras everywhere. Maya's eyes narrowed slightly, but she stayed calm. She didn't need to beat him with anger. She had already beaten him with preparation. As she walked into the summit venue, the sound of flashes and murmurs echoed like a distant drum. She passed through the crowd like a ghost among the blind. Everyone was looking at Zane. None of them saw her. Not yet. Inside the grand auditorium, Zane stood on stage beneath the Vostech banner, Lena clapping from the front row. Richard Voss, regal in his arrogance, watched from a VIP box above. And now, the announcer boomed, please welcome the new Chief Financial Officer of Vostech, the visionary behind our Global Green Initiative, Zain Malik. The room erupted into applause. Zain took the stage. Polished. Confident. Hollow. I stand before you not just as CFO, he said, but as a partner in progress. Vostech is committed to a cleaner future, and we now possess the technology to make that vision real. In the shadows backstage, Maya waited. Her cue was coming. Zain continued. In collaboration with our international partners, we are launching Vosgreen, a groundbreaking AI-driven grid system, set to power entire regions using desert-based solar optimization. The screen behind him came to life, displaying schematics that were unmistakably derived from Maya's original Sahara grid. Layla leaned in. They didn't even change the model names. Maya stepped forward. Her heels echoed through the side hallway as she approached the main entrance to the stage. The announcer cleared his throat again. We are also pleased to introduce a special guest today. An innovator in her own right. Founder and CEO of EcoCore Global, Maya Karim. A hush fell across the crowd. Whispers rippled like silk through the room. Zane's smile faltered. Lena looked confused. Richard Voss leaned forward in his seat, visibly tense. Maya walked into the spotlight. She stopped center stage, looked straight at Zane, and then at the audience. Thank you, she said. I wasn't expecting such a warm welcome. But I am grateful to be here. Especially to witness history. A flicker of confusion crossed the audience. Cameras rolled. Reporters whispered. Maya raised her voice. What you've just seen, she gestured to the display behind her, is a remarkable idea. Unfortunately, it's not theirs. Gasps filled the auditorium. Zane stepped forward, his voice strained. Maya, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, she cut him off. Just misappropriation. With a click of a remote, she replaced the slideshow with a live screen. It displayed server logs, email threads, file names, and timestamps, undeniable evidence of digital theft. 2 nights ago, she continued, a breach attempt was made on EcoCore's secured servers. The breach originated from a hotel suite in this very city. The IP address belongs to a device registered under Zain Malik. Cameras clicked furiously. A low roar of voices began to build. Maya looked at the crowd. What Vostech is calling innovation is stolen. From the corner of the room, one of the reporters stood and shouted, Do you have proof? Maya nodded to Noor, who pressed a button on her tablet. Instantly, every journalist's device in the auditorium received a secure folder. Legal filings. Surveillance screenshots. Lena's leaked chats. Zane's emails. The room exploded. Richard Voss stood up, face red, shouting into a phone. Security teams began to move. Zane tried to speak again. This is slander. She's bitter. We were married. That tech was mine too. Maya turned to him slowly. Let's ask your lawyers. Or better yet, your board. She walked to the front of the stage and handed the manila envelope to a stunned Vostech board member in the front row. I suggest you read this carefully. It outlines not only theft, but insider trading, fraudulent asset transfers, and unauthorized use of protected intellectual property. Then she turned to the crowd. My name is Maya Karim. I built EcoCore from scratch. And I will not let corruption wear the mask of progress. The audience rose in thunderous applause, some in support, others in shock. Zain stood frozen. Lena pulled on his arm. The cameras caught everything. As Maya walked off stage, Layla whispered in her ear. The board just called an emergency session. You hit them hard. Maya didn't smile. I'm not done. Because the fallout was only beginning. 30 minutes after Maya's exposé shook the VosTech summit, the building's atmosphere had changed completely. Gone was the glittering confidence of a company basking in its moment. In its place were frantic footsteps, hushed phone calls, and board members whispering behind closed doors. The press was swarming, cameras still rolling, and Maya had left them all stunned in her wake. Backstage, Zain's voice echoed angrily through the corridors. You let her speak? You let her on stage? His assistant stumbled beside him, apologizing repeatedly. I didn't know she had clearance. Her name was added to the guest list hours ago. She played all of us, Zain snapped. In the private suite upstairs, Maya stood with Layla, Noor, and Faris El-Najjar. A live feed of the summit played on the wall-mounted screen. VosTech had cut the public broadcast, but the damage was already done. Social media was ablaze with hashtags. Hashtag stolen innovation. Hashtag EcoCore truth. Hashtag VosTech exposed. Maya stood calmly, her arms crossed, watching Zain pace in a recorded security feed from earlier. He looked less like a powerful executive and more like a man cornered by his own lies. Layla's phone rang. She answered, listened, and then looked at Maya. The Dubai Business Review just pulled their article on Zain's promotion. Bloomberg and Reuters are asking for interviews with you. Maya turned toward the window. Tell them, soon. Not yet. She wasn't finished setting the fire. In the boardroom 2 floors above, chaos reigned. Richard Voss slammed his hand on the polished table. This is a coordinated attack. That woman, she's using emotional theatrics to destabilize us. One of the older board members leaned forward. No, Richard. This is documented evidence. If even half of what she said is true, we're sitting on a lawsuit that could gut this company. Another voice added. And if we're caught suppressing this, we're complicit. We need to suspend Zain immediately and begin an internal audit. Richard glared across the room, the weight of losing control tightening around him. Back in the suite, Noor turned to Maya. They're unraveling. Faris added quietly. They should. You didn't just bring evidence. You brought truth. And people can't unsee that. But Maya wasn't satisfied. There's still one more move. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a final document, one that Layla hadn't even seen. What's that? Layla asked. Maya laid it on the table. A registered financial record showing VosTech's offshore partnerships, with Zain's name linked to illegal transfers from their joint accounts. But more damning, it detailed a buried clause in the VosTech merger contract, one that would have given VosTech silent control over any acquired ecotech intellectual property, including hers. Layla leaned in, eyes wide. This is corporate theft on a global scale. And VosTech knew, Maya said softly. This wasn't just Zain. Richard was in on it. The whole merger was a front. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Noor checked her phone. Someone sent the full report to the Department of Economic Security. Layla looked at Maya. You didn't. Maya gave her a cold glance. I said I wouldn't let corruption wear the mask of progress. I meant every word. Downstairs, chaos was erupting. Uniformed officers were entering the summit hall. They moved quickly, heading toward Zain and Lena, who were being escorted into a private room by VosTech security. Journalists were screaming questions. What's your response to the fraud allegations? Did you steal your wife's IP? Is EcoCore the true inventor of VosGreen? Zain tried to shove past the cameras. Lena was in tears, mascara streaking down her face. Richard Voss, meanwhile, had vanished from the stage entirely. Back in the suite, Maya watched silently. She picked up her phone and opened the last email she had prepared. Addressed to the Global Innovation Council, the Energy Regulation Committee, and several prominent partners across Europe and Asia. Subject line: The truth behind Vos Green. She hit send. Within minutes, inboxes across the globe lit up with the real story. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was an international reckoning. Layla exhaled slowly. It's done. Maya turned toward her daughter's photo on the wall. No, she whispered. It's only just begun. Dubai's early evening skyline glowed like molten glass, unaware that in boardrooms and newsrooms across the world, a corporate empire was imploding. Maya watched the tremors unfold in real time. Emails from tech journalists flooded Noor's inbox. Ethics committees were launching immediate inquiries. And the Energy Council had suspended Vostechka's participation in the Clean Cities Pact pending investigation. One by one, the dominoes fell. Layla paced behind Maya, her phone buzzing non-stop. Every call was another executive trying to distance themselves from the fallout. Maya, she said, holding the phone out. It's the European Energy Council. They're offering to freeze all joint ventures with Vostech if you provide full cooperation. Maya took the phone but didn't speak. She listened carefully, then responded with only a few words. I'll send everything. Tonight. She ended the call, turned to Noor, and nodded. Send them the second package. The full Vos Green acquisition draft. With Richard Voss's annotations. Noor's fingers flew across her tablet. Done. Across the city, the Vostech tower went dark. A symbolic gesture. But the truth was, their systems were in lockdown. Maya's evidence had triggered legal freezes in 3 countries. Investors had begun pulling out. Their share price dropped 11% in an hour. Zain was no longer answering calls. He was being held for questioning. And Lena? She had tried to delete her private messages, but it was too late. Noor had backed up everything. Posts mocking Maya. Bragging about manipulating the marriage. Even one message where she laughed about inheriting $1 billion future. Instead, she inherited disgrace. Maya walked out onto the balcony, the desert wind brushing her cheeks. She could see the Vostech tower from here, standing like a monument to arrogance. But tonight, it looked smaller. Diminished. Layla joined her, quieter than usual. They underestimated you. They always do, Maya replied. A few moments passed in silence. Then Layla added, you know this isn't over. The merger will collapse. But Vostech will regroup. Maybe not under Richard. Maybe not under Zain. But they'll come again. I know, Maya said calmly. I'm not afraid of them. Not anymore. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from the Minister of Technological Development. We reviewed the evidence. The Sahara Grid patent remains under EcoCore. You are its sole recognized inventor. Congratulations, Maya. You've protected something the world needs. Asterisk asterisk. Maya finally let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. But it wasn't relief. It was clarity. Inside, Noor smiled at her screen. EcoCore's website traffic just surged to record levels. Hundreds of new investors requesting calls. Your public trust rating jumped overnight. Maya turned from the balcony and walked back in. It's time we expand. Africa. Southeast Asia. Any region Vostech tried to block us from. We take it all back. Layla raised an eyebrow. You're going on the offensive? Maya picked up the framed photo of her daughter, then set it gently on her desk. No, she said. I'm building something they can't tear down. A sudden knock echoed at the penthouse door. Security opened it. An envelope was handed in. No return address. Maya opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note. You won this round. But we're not the only ones watching. R asterisk asterisk. No signature. Just the letter. Layla stepped closer. Richard. Maya folded the note carefully. No. This is bigger than him. She placed the envelope in her drawer, then locked it. Noor looked at her. What now? Maya turned to both women. We double our cybersecurity. We restructure. And we prepare for whatever comes next. Outside, Dubai glowed under the night sky. The empire that tried to steal her future had crumbled. But somewhere beyond the lights, a new threat was waiting. Maya didn't care. She was ready. A week had passed since the summit. The headlines still echoed across global news feeds, but inside Maya's office, the world had quieted. Not with peace, but with precision. EcoCore's headquarters, a sleek glass structure near the edge of the Dubai Marina, pulsed with energy. Security was tighter. Protocols were stricter. No system touched the outside world without first passing through a new wall of encryption. But Maya knew something was still off. It began with a pattern. Noor spotted it first. 3 identical data pings, same time every night, all routed through seemingly random VPNs. They didn't breach, but they touched our perimeter. Testing our response, Maya said. Layla, who had returned after a quick legal tour in Brussels, leaned over the monitor. They're poking the walls to see what changed. Maya turned to her CTO on the secure conference screen. Trace them. I want origins, device IDs, anything. He hesitated. They're using military-grade cloaking. Whoever this is, it's not amateur. She nodded. Then we treat it like war. Across the city, Zayn Malik sat alone in a private holding residence. Stripped of his title. His assets frozen. His name smeared beyond repair. He hadn't spoken publicly since the summit. But Maya hadn't forgotten him. She didn't need revenge. She needed information. Noor knocked once and entered Maya's office. Interpol sent a report. Zayn has connections to a new entity registered in Luxembourg. It was created 2 months before the breach. The name is strange. Orinex Holdings. Layla's eyes narrowed. I've heard that name. Quietly. It's not a shell. It's a vault. Private fund. No public activity, no investor transparency. But heavy backing. From where? Maya asked. Unknown, Noor replied. But one of the directors on file is. She hesitated. Maya stood still. Say it. An ex-consultant from the World Energy Syndicate. One of the men who pushed Vostek into green tech. He vanished a year ago. Maya processed that quickly. This wasn't Zayn's plan anymore. He had been a pawn. Someone else was moving pieces now. And they had just stepped into the arena. Later that evening, Maya sat in her private study, reviewing her original Sahara grid schematics. They weren't just blueprints for energy, they were a roadmap to revolution. A system that could disrupt the energy balance of entire regions. Now, someone else wanted them. Someone bigger. Her screen blinked. A message from an anonymous server. You stopped one theft. But the world isn't kind to those who hold power alone. Share it. Or lose it. There was no signature. No source. But Maya knew. Orinex wasn't bluffing. They were preparing their own offensive. She walked into the war room where Noor and Layla were waiting. From now on, every communication runs through our private mesh network. I want every satellite backup duplicated off-grid. Our partnerships must be reviewed. And no new hires unless they've been triple vetted. Noor nodded. Understood. Layla tilted her head slightly. This is more than a threat, isn't it? Maya glanced at the encrypted message again. They're not trying to steal our tech. They're trying to control the narrative. If they can't own us, they'll try to discredit us. Dismantle us from within. Outside, a windstorm was rising over the Gulf. Sand whipped against glass as the skyline shimmered like a mirage. EcoCore's tower stood tall, but the ground beneath it was shifting. Maya knew what came next wouldn't be a legal fight. It would be psychological. They wouldn't come for her assets. They would come for trust. For her credibility. For the soul of her company. She looked at Layla and Noor. We get one shot at staying ahead. One chance to show the world who we are before they tell our story for us. Noor nodded. Then we need to act fast. Good, Maya said, turning toward the wall of screens. Let's write the next chapter before they try to erase the last. It began just after midnight. EcoCore's servers registered a spike. Then another. Then a full-scale cascade of intrusion attempts across multiple data clusters. The digital equivalent of a coordinated siege. Noor's voice crackled over the comm line. They're in the outer systems. Not core servers, but close. It's not brute force, it's coordinated. Someone knows our architecture. In the control room, lights flashed red across the holographic network map. Layla rushed in, still buttoning her jacket. I just got off the phone with the Cyber Defense Unit. They've seen similar activity targeting independent renewable energy firms in Singapore and Morocco. This is global. Maya didn't blink. Whoever's behind Orinex isn't targeting us alone. They're clearing the field. Outside, rain pelted the windows, rare for Dubai, but fitting. Inside, the building pulsed with silent urgency. Shut down all public-facing nodes. Reroute to deep tunnel protocols. Now, Maya ordered. Engineers responded instantly. Screens flickered. The lights dimmed briefly. EcoCore's heart went dark, but not offline. Noor spoke up again. One of the IP fingerprints matches a dormant Vostech satellite relay. Richard Voss had remote access for years. Can we trace it? Maya asked. We can do better, Noor said, typing rapidly. We can feed them something they'll regret. In seconds, Noor injected a virus into the intrusion channel. On the surface, it looked like stolen AI code, rich with leaked Sahara grid data. But beneath it, the payload buried itself like a seed. A reverse trace. A self-replicating ghost file that would ride the breach back to its origin and copy every layer of metadata it touched. Maya leaned over Noor's shoulder. Once it lands, extract everything. I want faces. Names. Funders. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video link. She answered. The screen filled with static. Then slowly resolved into the face of a man she didn't recognize. Mid-40s. Clean-shaven. Wearing a muted gray suit. No background. Just darkness. Maya Karim, he said. Who are you? I represent stakeholders in energy stability. Your technology threatens a balance that's been in place for decades. Understand, we don't want to destroy you. But we will contain you. Maya's jaw tightened. Energy stability isn't balance. It's monopoly. And people are dying under it. The man smiled faintly. Your data is already in our hands. Even now, we're framing your AI systems as unstable. Dangerous. The press will turn. The governments will hesitate. And soon, the public will doubt. Maya didn't flinch. I hope you enjoyed our decoy. The man blinked. Excuse me. Her lips curled slightly. You didn't steal the grid. You stole a tracker. And it's already inside your systems. The line cut off. Noor's screen lit up. We have the full network path. They're operating out of a data center in Geneva, masked as a renewable fund. Multiple shell investors across Hong Kong, Zurich, and Qatar. Layla's eyes widened. This is a tech cartel. Maya turned to her team. Then we bring them into the light. By morning, EcoCore launched a secure press stream. Not just a defense, but a disclosure. Maya stood before a dark backdrop, no frills, no embellishments. She spoke clearly, calmly, truthfully. A global entity is attempting to suppress the development of clean energy by manipulating media, markets, and legal systems. We have evidence of cyber attacks, theft, and coordinated disinformation. Today, we make that evidence public. Within minutes, reporters everywhere downloaded encrypted packets containing everything. The IP trails, the fake merger documents, the Orinex shell structure. But it wasn't just a dump. It was a declaration. EcoCore wasn't hiding. It was fighting back. The response was immediate. World governments demanded investigations. 3 rival companies were hit with subpoenas. An emergency summit was scheduled by the Global Tech Oversight Committee. Maya watched the data ripple outward across the world like wildfire. The empire had come for her in silence. But she responded in flames. Noor turned from her screen. We've isolated the Orinex founders. Names, accounts, shadow boards. Layla added, Interpol wants to talk. Maya walked to the center of the room. They'll come harder now. Layla nodded. But now the world is watching. Maya looked out over the city. Through the storm. Through the dark. And she smiled. She had turned defense into offense. Now, the hunt was hers. A week later, silence fell over Dubai, not the silence of defeat, but of clarity after chaos. EcoCore stood intact, defiant in the aftermath of war. The digital siege had failed. The data had held. And Maya Karim had emerged not just unbroken, but transformed. International investigations had begun. Interpol raided a Geneva-based data center, unmasking Orinex Holdings as a shadow consortium of energy lobbyists, ex-government contractors, and defunct oil executives. Their entire network had been built to quietly absorb disruptive green technologies, either by acquisition or sabotage. But EcoCore had slipped through their grasp. Because it was never for sale. Inside the EcoCore tower, the war room was now quiet. Noor leaned back in her chair, eyes red from sleepless nights but glowing with satisfaction. Interpol confirmed it. The Orinex servers carried embedded blueprints of your Sahara grid, with forged timestamps. They were planning to launch a duplicate platform next year under a false banner. They were going to erase me, Maya said. But you spoke first, Layla replied. Maya looked across the darkened screens, now idle, no longer lit with threat alerts and breach attempts. She felt something new stirring in her chest. Not triumph. Resolve. In the days following the press release, something unexpected had happened. Universities reached out asking to license her tech. Grassroots energy initiatives offered to partner across emerging nations. And the public? They rallied behind her. The narrative shifted. Not just the story of a betrayed woman defending her empire, but of a leader willing to fight for global access to clean power. And she wasn't done yet. A message pinged her screen. Meeting request, United Nations Green Future Assembly. Location, Nairobi. Date, 2 weeks. Speaker, Maya Karim, CEO EcoCore Global. Layla looked over her shoulder. They're giving you the keynote. Maya closed her laptop gently. We're going. Noor smiled. And what exactly will you say to the world? Maya paused, then looked between them. I'll tell them the truth. That the future of energy doesn't belong to corporations, or secret boards, or men who play at kings behind closed doors. She stood up, her voice growing stronger with every word. It belongs to the people. The ones who need it. The ones who will build with it. And the ones who refuse to let progress be sold to the highest bidder. Layla raised her glass of pomegranate juice in salute. To the storm they couldn't control. Maya smiled, lifting her own. To the revolution they couldn't see coming. Outside the tower, Dubai pulsed with life. The scars left by betrayal had not vanished, but they had hardened into armor. Maya had not merely survived an attack on her business, her name, and her purpose. She had dismantled an empire, rewritten the rules, and lit a path for others to follow. Far from the glass and steel of the city, a girl named Noura played in a sun-drenched courtyard. Unaware, for now, that her mother had changed the course of the world. And somewhere, beneath the ashes of Orinex, behind shattered mirrors and silenced voices, a new enemy watched, waiting, rebuilding. But Maya would be ready. Because once you walk through fire and come out standing, you don't fear the next storm. You become it.